morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabweans on the social media have been having free entertainment. Zanu PF and Triple C, two champions, have been at each other on the social media. Triple C's Mahere shot at minister and posted the following. Nyika yacho inosimuka sei maminista achiswera achitamba kongoni nenguva dzebasa. And she finished up with her signature call, "We need new leaders." The said minister hit back, of course, and said, tikunzwei futi muchiti you need new leaders. Imakatiza kuparliament nokutiza kabato kenyu. We need new opposition. This is cheap entertainment. And who can say no to that? But the truth of the matter is, Zimbabwe is a failed state. The country desperately needs to get out of this hellhole that it finds itself. When we have all loved our cheap, free entertainment from the two ladies, we still have got to come back to the big issues affecting the nation. Zimbabwe is a failed state. Millions of our people are living in abject poverty. 45 years after independence, we are still stuck with a corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical Zanu PF regime. That is the problem we cannot turn away from. The other day I was talking about how the world has changed since President Trump was elected into office. It has changed. The world is facing more challenges now than ever before. The other day, Sweden announced that it was cutting aid to Zimbabwe and a few other countries. Many other countries will follow. And to be quite honest, Sweden was following in the footsteps of America. President Trump cut US aid to Zimbabwe and many other African countries. We are facing a serious challenge. And yet, I have to say that Comrade Mativenga, I keep calling him Mativenga, but I think it is something else. Nelson Chamisa and Mnangagwa, Zanu PF, and the rest in this particular case, my apologies, it should be Tatenda Mavetera. My apologies. The truth of the matter is, neither of these people are going to bring about the democratic changes the country needs so desperately if we're ever going to get out of this hellhole. We need those reforms to be implemented. And yet we've got to admit that Zanu PF will never reform itself out of office. And the people of Zimbabwe realized that. By the late 1990s, the nation came to the conclusion that they needed to elect opposition leaders who will implement the democratic reforms. The tragic reality is, after 25 years of MDC-CCC on the political stage, including the 5 years in the GNU, they have not implemented even one token reform. That is the reality. And what is more, ever since the GNU, they have given up on implementing reforms. Anyone who thinks that Chamisa and company will ever implement reform is naive, to say the least. Emerson Mnangagwa the other day was boasting about how in Zimbabwe there is no friction between Zanu PF and the opposition. And he's absolutely right. There is no friction. Ever since the GNU, the opposition have been so compromised that they are Zanu PF, Team B in all but name. Here is Mnangagwa boasting about that.
I'm happy kuti in Zimbabwe hakuna friction between the ruling party and the opposition party. But it is critically important that we must have an opposition which must check on the ruling party. So members of the opposition, make sure you deal with the ruling party. Don't make them sit. Make sure you make them busy, the opposition. Musamboregera. Nyanga vakadini rambai muchingo criticize kuseni masikati criticize. That way, munovabatsira kuti varambe vari mupower. Nokuti vanenge vachidiscover mistakes avo vachicorrect. Ivi muchingorova, nokuti mukasi varova vanorelaxa, mozotora power. So my advice to opposition, please be serious no opposition. Nokuti murambe muri mu opposition.
The truth of the matter is, the MDC-CCC have given up on implementing reforms to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. Ever since the GNU debacle, they have conned the people to participate in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the Zanu PF was rigging those elections. knowing fully well that by participating, they'll only be giving Zanu PF legitimacy. They've participated because they also knew that Zanu PF was giving away a few Gravitrain seats to entice the opposition to participate. Zanu PF needs the opposition to participate in these flawed elections to give the regime legitimacy. So where is change going to come from? I believe change in Zimbabwe, real change, will only come from the people themselves finally waking up to the reality that neither Zanu PF nor the MDC will ever bring about meaningful change in Zimbabwe. The people have got to wake up to the reality that the opposition has been calling them to participate in flawed elections to give Zanu PF legitimacy. I have often played this video clip of Nelson Chamisa telling the people that CCC was going to win big in 2023.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe nokuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifoiri. Plan yaMwari haifoiri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There is no way we are not going to have a celebration. There is no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
Chamisa was lying. I don't know how many times one has got to say this, but it must be said because it hasn't sunk in. The 2 million who were conned by Chamisa to participate in the 2023 elections must understand and must accept that Chamisa lied to them. And yet many are struggling to accept that reality. Why? Well, because Zimbabweans have got a deeply rooted personality cult mentality. They consider leaders to be demigods who can do no wrong. And of course, Chamisa and company have taken full advantage of that. They've lied to the people again and again and conned them to participate in an election knowing fully well that the election is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating they are only perpetuating Zanu PF dictatorship. But they've succeeded in doing it because, well, the people believe in those leaders. They cannot accept that Chamisa and company are corrupt, incompetent, liars, and conmen. Even if you produce all the evidence, they don't want to accept it because they don't have the intellect to digest that information and come out to the right conclusion. This is the reality in Zimbabwe. Like it or not, Mahere has been on the social media for no other reason other than to start campaigning because she intends to contest in the 2028 elections, knowing fully well that without reforms, Zanu PF will rig those elections. And knowing fully well that if people participate in their millions, that will give Zanu PF legitimacy. But she doesn't care about that. Or she has got her eyes on the gravy train seat. And if she was to get it, this time she will be hoping that she will not be ambushed, as happened in 2023, by the likes of Sengezo Savango. She ran away from Parliament because she had no choice. She knew that Savango, who had recalled a number of the elected CCC leaders, was almost certain to recall her too. For the simple reason that she had been very close to Chamisa. So she jumped before she was pushed. But make no mistake about it. She will participate again in 2028, even when she knows that doing so is futile, because it will only help to give Zanu PF legitimacy and perpetuate the dictatorship and the people's suffering. The truth of the matter is, these people do not care about the suffering of the ordinary people. They don't care. All they care about is power, wealth. And they will ride roughshod over the ordinary people, rights, freedoms, and human dignity. The people have to wake up and open their eyes, or we are stuck in this nightmare forever. I think one of the things I find really disappointing is that the people who have supported MDC CCC, many of them have 11 years of formal education and more. In terms of education, I don't know what other additional education one would need to enable one to think for themselves. Why are these people not able to see Nelson Chamisa and company for who they really are? Why is it that these people are continue to refuse to see the reality that Chamisa lied when he said he had plugged the vote-raking loopholes? Why is it that these people refuse to accept that Chamisa is a liar? That is a mystery.
Ende patakasangana na Trump akatibvunza nawe akomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Serious questions were raised about your behaviour in Washington, D.C. You did see some senior people on Capitol Hill, some Congress people, but you also claimed that you'd seen Donald Trump. You claimed you had a conversation with him in which you said he asked you how much you needed to move the country forward. You told him $15 billion, and he said to you that he would provide the money if you won the election. that was not true, was it?
Sangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
It was not true that you'd seen Donald Trump and that Donald Trump indicated to you that he would provide, if you won the election, $15 billion.
All those statements were said by other people, not what I said.
Akasangana na Trump akatibvunza navakomana mari yamuri kuda kuti nyika ifambe imari.
Well, no, because there is a video which shows you at a rally in January back home in Zimbabwe saying that Donald Trump had pretty much promised you $15 billion. To be clear, because some people in Zimbabwe are still confused, you're now telling me you did not meet Donald Trump.
We did not.
The truth of the matter is, Zimbabwe needs the reforms, the democratic reforms implemented to end this reign of the corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical Zanu PF dictatorship. Zanu PF will never reform itself out of office. The opposition have given up. The people themselves must realize that the opposition is Zanu PF Team B in all but name. Playing for Team B to win, for Team B to have legitimacy, and get their little reward of the few gravy train seats. 45 years of rigged elections. It is unbelievable that anyone would be so easily conned into believing that the opposition will win rigged elections. And yet, how many times have Zimbabweans been conned by that lie? Amazing. It really is disappointing, particularly when one considers that most of those people who are so easily conned by the opposition to believe these idiotic lies have received what one can only consider good education. 11 years or more of formal education. The people of Zimbabwe have to wake up. That is the reality, and there's no running away from it. Thank you very much. Have a good day.